Hey, Rick, I'm still surprised you decided to digest yourself into a crocodile. How'd you decide to do
What
that?
makes you think I'm Rick? I ate him, and now I'm gonna take his place.
Oh man, thank you.
Prime Rick is a mysterious villain who has become one of the most interesting figures of the Rick and Morty universe. He acquired this title after several brief appearances in which he showed his unique abilities. After discovering the secret of eternal youth, he became physically invulnerable and was able to split his consciousness into several parts in different multiverse. Now we will try to dive into his world and understand what motivated him to such an ascension and why he killed Rick's C-137 family. However, before we reveal this topic, let's take a look at the backstory of his actions. The beginning of Prime Rick's story was similar to many other Ricks. He was an ordinary scientist and family man who aspired to create a teleportation device. However, what made him stand out was his particular genius and ingenuity. With his unique abilities, he was able to develop a teleportation device, perhaps one of the first in history. He then began traveling the vast multiverse in search of allies and like-minded individuals with whom he could share his knowledge and technology of interdimensional travel. It is unknown how long he roamed the cosmos before he transformed into Prime Rick and adopted his more aggressive and resentful personality. The meeting between Prime and Rick C-137 was a turning point in their lives. At this time, Rick C-137 was an ordinary guy and a caring father, and Prime Rick decided to share with him the amazing technology of traveling between realities. However, the surprise for Prime was Rick C-137's refusal, who realized that his life would lose meaning if he could move between universes. This enraged and frustrated Prime, who had already seen the infinity and loneliness of the multiverse. He decided to share this unfulfilled reality with others so that they would understand his pain. However, Rick C-137 did not give in to provocation and preferred his family and home. All of this led Prime to the decision to destroy his fellow man's life, just as his own invention had destroyed his life. He killed C-137's family, a family that he also has. Before he set out to explore space, family was no longer of value to him. Everything changed the moment he saw the infinity of the multiverse. On the surface, he seemed like a cool and unflappable science fiction hero. But to achieve that status, he had to bury real human emotion in his soul. There was no more genuine affection, love, joy, and sadness in his life. Prime Rick realized this to the fullest after a conversation with our Rick from the C-137 multiverse. This conversation opened his eyes and showed him that being Rick didn't necessarily mean being lonely and indifferent. He realized that it is possible to live happily with his family, considering them the most important thing in life. However, the way back was already closed, and in anger and resentment, Prime Rick decided to kill Rick's family from Multiverse 137 to make him feel as alone as he was. After the crucial events, how did Prime Rick manage to become immortal? It will be a huge amount of time before we see our villain again, but his actions during that time can be traced, and now I'm going to try to do just that. Prime lost part of his human soul, and his recovery was so difficult that he decided to renounce everything human entirely. He became a godlike creature and strove for immortality and eternal youth like many other Ricks in the multiverse. However, unlike other scientists and murderers of alien families, Prime actually achieved this goal. From the beginning of his encounter with 137 Ricks until today, he hasn't aged or rejuvenated. To understand how he did it, we need to look back to the very first episode of the animated series, Rick in Search of a Healing Cure for Morty. In this episode, Rick traveled to a dimension where humanity or another species of creature possessed the secret of eternal youth. Perhaps Prime accidentally wandered there, or into a similar universe, and borrowed that race's technology. Thus, he never ages again. However, finding out exactly how he achieved immortality requires additional research and following his wanderings through the universe. Prime Rick's history is full of mysteries and secrets to unravel. However, the most interesting thing is how the great scientist achieved absolute physical invulnerability. From this footage, we can find some clues from old episodes. What pops into my head is what Rick mentioned about the roadside cafe being in the field of immortality. This field allows you to instantly heal any physical damage, that is, regenerate. My guess is that Prime used this technology to achieve his invulnerability, Perhaps he managed to create such a field around his body. If someone could do this on a huge scale, then there is no reason that they couldn't do it with a smaller radius and bind the field to their body. I note that during the creation of the great technologies, Prime Rick continued to interact with other Reeks. There is speculation that he was associated with the first Citadel team when the idea of creating such a citadel was first conceived. You can tell from the logo shown around the other Reeks that C-137 was after. I think Avenger may have had some clues as to its whereabouts, and they led him to that great Citadel logo, which symbolically depicts the English letter R written incompletely, which seems to resemble the letter P, which alludes to the word Prime. However, since Prime Rick was never found, he probably always operated in the shadows, never showing himself or giving himself away, like a mysterious ruler, giving out instructions to everyone, but whose face no one ever saw. Those who have seen him have gotten no further information about him, while Rick C-137 was playing the role of an aggressive Avenger in the multiverse. Our sci-fi hero was engaged in his most important and truly brilliant project, researching the secret of quantum superposition in the multiverse, allowing him to be in multiple realities simultaneously. In his desire to remain invisible, Prime has been successful for the entire visible time period in the series. However, after splitting his consciousness into multiple universes, catching this villain becomes nearly impossible, even for our Rick C-137. But in episode 10 of the show's 5th season, the evil Morty breaks the portal system, and our Rick has to reboot it. Subsequently, all the portal travelers return to their home universe, including our greatest villain. Rick C-137 realizes this and finally finds Prime. They finally meet, and this event gives us a tremendous amount of information about these two scientists. First and foremost, we learn that Prime likely has no memory of our Rick C-137. From the notes left in the villain's abode, it appears that he was preparing for an attack from any of his many enemies, but that just means that Prime has too many stalkers, including our favorite Avenger, to remember every single one of them. Despite this, however, it won't be long before Rick C-137 finds Prime. The great villain will have to face Rick C-137 directly as he continues his search for Prime, which should lead to some sort of logical conclusion. Until we see the villain's full military might and learn just how powerful he can be. But our hero, I think, shouldn't give in to him, at least because of his goal that's so tightly planted in his mind. Prime Rick wants to become a god, immune to physical and mental attacks from his enemies. However, any man who aspires to resemble a god can never get around his nature, his vulnerability. The only thing Rick C-137 must do to defeat his family's killer is to find that cherished vulnerability. Despite all his spiritual transformations, Prime is still lonely and miserable, as we saw in his first appearance. Neither immortality nor eternal youth will save him from the confines of human consciousness. Remember this. And that's all. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, put likes, and watch our other videos. And also share your opinion in the comments. With you was Croco. See you later.